day 2 of our sew along, and hopefully everybody got through day 1, have their pattern prepped and ready to go. So here's my pattern. It's interfaced, all cut and laid out. So I've got my exterior here, my interior, and I'm ready to get started on day 2. So for day 2, we're going to be doing the pocket pieces. So we have our zipper welt pocket, which seems a bit tricky, but it's actually a little bit easier than it looks. So the first step for our zipper welt pocket is to mark our lines on it. So I've already started, I've already marked my lines, but I'm going to show you how you go about doing it. So first, you would, let me just move my stuff out of the way. Make a bit of an easier space before I lay it out. The longer side, that's your width. The shorter is your length. So lay it out, and then we're going to measure in from the length 1 inch. So we're going to line it up. So we're going to mark our 6-inch line. And I am going by inches. I know we could go use metric versus imperial, but it's a little bit easier to just go ahead and use inches at this stage. So you've got your 1 inch, that center line there is your 1 inch. Now you're going to go and you're going to, from that 1 inch line, you're going to go up, and you're going to mark 1/4 inch. So you're going to measure it at the 1/4 inch line, and you're going to mark 6 inches, 1/4 inch, and then you're going to go the other way, and you're going to mark 1/4 inch. So you just measure that out. All right, and then you measure 1/2 inch to complete our rectangle. 1/2 inch to complete our rectangle. And there we go. So that's our marking. The center line is going to be where our zipper is going to go. That's what we're going to cut in a little bit. There's a few more steps to do before that. That rectangle is the box we're going to sew. So I'm going to move into my sewing room, and we're going to sew that and move on to the next step. All right. All right, hey guys, we're back. And before we get started on sewing in our welt pocket, I wanted to go ahead and let's take a look at your bag laid out first, so you can decide which lining piece you want to use to put your welt pocket into. So I prefer to put my welt pocket into the back of my bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lay out my bag. If that's how I want it, then that means that this is the back side of the bag, and that's where I want my lining, my welt pocket to go. 1 inch down, 3/4 inch from the side, and I'm just gonna pin that in place. You sew the rectangular box, not the line in the middle. Kylie has also mentioned that she decreased her stitch length by 1/2. So this is my standard set stitch length, 2.5. I'm going to decrease it to 1.5. We measure in 1/2 inch, which is here. Make a little triangle, another little triangle, measure in 1/2 inch, which is here, and triangle, and another triangle. Okay, so using a set of, you can, if you really want to use your a rotary cutter to start the line, you could. I'm just going to do this real quick. So I'm going to fold it, cut, make a little cut, that just gets it started. You're going to cut along that line to the tip of your triangle you just made, okay? Go back, other side, cut along the line to the tip of our triangle, and then you cut along those edges, and do not cut those stitches that are in the corner, but try and get close. You don't want to cut those stitches because you don't want them to start coming unraveled. So, other side. So let's cut to the tip, and then, alright. We've got our welt pocket, we've sewn it, we've trimmed it, and now we're going to push it through to the opposite side. So you're going to bring it on through, and you're going to give it a press. It's got a nice flat welt there, and we're going to lay our zipper down flat and pin in place. And I've changed over to my zipper foot. So we're going to add the rest of our pocket using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm also going to switch that to my standard foot. So on here we're going to sew the top and the sides, making sure that we don't sew any of the actual lining piece, and also making sure we leave the bottom open because that's how Kylie has designed the pattern to be turned right side up. So I'm going to do that right quick. Picking up where we've left off, we've finished our welt pocket, we've sewn our pocket pieces together but left the bottom portion open so that we can turn our bag. Then we move on to our card slot. So these things are optional. If you don't want to make a welt pocket and a card slot, you don't have to. However, it does make a nice finish for the bag. So our card slot pockets, which you can't, it's hard to tell even with using a pencil instead of my chalk, but I have marked my lines. So it's 2.5 inches, 1.75 inches, 2.5 inches, 1.75, and 2.5. I'm going to step away and I'm going to iron this so that it sits nice and flat, and then I will be back for us to sew it together. So that's our fold line on our pattern, and we're going to stitch down that line, and then we're going to stitch the pieces together. So we've got our card slots. Now you need to stitch that closed before we stitch it to to the actual bag. So okay, so I'm gonna center and I'm gonna pin in place my pocket. So we don't want to sew the pocket bag down where the card slot is. And in addition to that, we don't want to sew the top portion of the card slot, as we want to use that for notes or whatever else. So we want to have our 3 individual pockets, and then so we're just going to sew sides and the bottom. And we're going to make sure that we flip that card bag, that welt pocket bag away, so that we don't stitch that accidentally. And there we go. So we've got notes pocket, cards pockets, and our zipper welt pocket that we can turn our bag through. Alright guys, so that's the end for day 2. We've done our pockets, we've done our card slots, we've done basically the whole of the interior, and tomorrow we'll get started on the exterior. I hope this was really helpful and informative. If you have any questions, please be sure to ask in the group on the event, or check my name on Facebook, Cheyenne Estridge, and I'm one of Jody's admins at FizzGig and Fezzics, and you can message me anytime and I can try to troubleshoot or help out. And if you can't get a hold of me, you can always get a hold of one of the other admins or Kylie, the bag designer. Yeah, so we'll see you for day 3. Bye guys!